Greetings, neighbors. This is Reflections, a show sponsored by the Paducah Cooperative Ministry where we, all of us together, do God's work with human hands. My name's Gregory Waldrop, and I'm the pastor at Fountain Avenue United Methodist Church. I'm one of your co-hosts, and I'm here today with Karen Winkel from the United Church, and she's the other co-host. Welcome, Karen.
Good to see you, Gregory, and good to have you with us. And this is an extra special program today focusing on health and well-being and issues that would be of interest to people of faith, of all faiths. Christi Bonds is here and is a physician who's relocated from Reno, Nevada, come all the way to Paducah to bring a variety of special gifts. So welcome, Christi, and I'm going to call you Christi if that's
yes,
all right.
Yes.
Yeah.
Thank you for inviting me to be on this show. It's been a long time. We've been trying to get together and do this.
We have. I think probably 18 months ago at least when we first met, and sort of the beginning stages of your dream in being here. Tell us what you're doing these days and about your location here in Paducah.
I moved here about 9 months ago, and I'm establishing a private practice in Lowertown in Integrative Medicine, as well as an attached gallery called the Heart of Healing Gallery. I had this kind of a practice and small gallery in Nevada, but in Paducah it's on a much larger scale, in part because of Lowertown Arts District is just the perfect home for it, and also because it's right down there next to the Quilt Museum, and I'm a quilter from way back.
Oh, great.
Yes.
In fact, quilts sort of got you here in the first place, is that right?
They did. Carol Breyer Fallert, I'm a very famous quilter in this country and actually around the world, became friends with me a few years back. We would see each other at quilt shows. I was her student in a couple of times, and one night she had backache from bending over the sewing machine, and I did some acupuncture on her in my office, and she just loved it. So at that point she made it her personal mission to try to get me to move here to be her doctor, she said. And it took a couple of years, but here I am.
And since then you've discovered got Paducah roots even.
Right. I've been interested in genealogy for many years, and in going through some of my old records, I discovered that one of my ancestors, George Washington Bonds, was born right here in Paducah in 1847. And then he moved out to Central California in the 1870s, 1880s.
Oh, that's great.
Yes.
Tell our viewers where your practice is located.
The private practice in integrative medicine is in Lowertown on the corner of 7th and Monroe. And it's a small building. It's hard to, sometimes people drive right by it because there's several large houses, mansions right next to it.
And then your gallery is located in a different location.
It's behind the medical practice. They're on one big lot, and they're actually one big building that has two parts. So the entrance to it is on Monroe, and the entrance to the medical practice is on 7th.
Okay. And I'm remembering a conversation that we had before today that you really began as an artist and then grew into a physician.
Yes.
And so it really is kind of a full circle.
Both of my parents were artists. I grew up in really the home of artists, and that's what I always thought I would do. But after 10 years of that, I was fairly successful. Did a lot of advertising art, album covers, promotional pieces for entertainers in northern Nevada. They came there, and I was quite successful. But it was very hard work, and I wanted something a little more intellectually stimulating, and somehow I got myself on the medical pathway. I did get a master's in family counseling at first, and then went on to medical school and family practice.
There in Nevada, is that where you trained?
Yes, that's where I did medical school and the graduate program in counseling, and then I went to West Virginia for an internship.
Now, part of the things that have intrigued me, having heard about you and seen your vitae, is this work with Andrew Weil.
Yes. A few years ago, I decided that I wanted to get really the best, the state-of-the-art formal training in integrative medicine. And the only program at that time, and it is still the best program, is at University of Arizona. It's a 2-year program where you study the integration of all types of medicine. And it's, you may have seen Dr. Weil. This is his latest book. He's written many, many of them. Kind of looks like a Santa Claus figure to my way of thinking. The integrative medicine means that you use Western medicine as far as you can, as much as you can, but then you may add what we would call alternative medicines as an adjunct, as a supplement to the Western medicine. So, and it's really, I think it's important to define your terms, because some people think that integrative medicine means you reject Western medicine, that you're doing only alternatives, which by that word it says it's an either or, it's an alternative. And that isn't what I do, that isn't what Dr. Weil does or any of the physicians who train with him. We integrate the best of all the worlds, all the fields of medicine that are out there, trying to be as evidence-based as possible. That's what Western medicine is really all about, is what are the studies, what's the evidence that a particular medicine or surgery or procedure is useful, yes. And the more dangerous the medicine or surgery or treatment, the more important it is to have the evidence. In somewhat safe or benign therapies, evidence is less critical. If you're not going, what's the risk-benefit ratio? If the risk isn't extremely high and the benefit could be quite high, perhaps you don't need as strong an evidence base as if you're doing heart surgery, for instance. One of the criticisms of alternative therapies is that there isn't enough evidence proving that they work, and that's true to a very great extent. There are some things that we have good evidence on, but it's going to be hard to find the evidence, to get the data, to do the research, because it all costs money, and who's going to pay for it? So Dr. Weil and myself are of a more practical viewpoint, that if it isn't likely to hurt you and it may help, why don't we add it and try it and see if it can help you on your individual path to healing.
What are some of the things that most obviously and most often are a part of your treatment in this integrative practice?
I would say people are often drawn to the idea of having acupuncture, medical acupuncture. And I have to say that acupuncture can be give you an immediate sense of well-being. It can be very powerful that way. It's not very risky. There are no herbs that will interact with medications, so it's a pretty safe treatment. But in and of itself, there are very few things I would treat only with acupuncture. In China, acupuncture would be equivalent to our physical therapy. And would we go to see a physical therapist for one treatment and say, okay, that I'm cured? No. Typically, doctors prescribe physical therapy 3 times a week for a month, just for a start. And truly, that's how acupuncture should be prescribed, especially if you're treating pain, symptoms of pain.
Mm-hmm. Well, I used acupuncture when I was going through treatment for breast cancer, and found 2 benefits from that. I wasn't having any pain, but it helped reduce the nausea that was associated with chemotherapy. And also, I think it really kept my energy. I didn't have much energy, but it kept the energy that I had more available, higher quality
Absolutely.
energy. And my doctors, that wasn't anything that they were familiar with, because when I mentioned that I was going, they asked, well, are you in pain? No, that's not why I'm going. But they were very open to that. I think I might have been the first person that had done that, at least in their, in their practice. But they were certainly open to that and supportive.
And as it turns out, there are several very good studies showing that acupuncture does help with the nausea of chemotherapy. So it's a wonderful way to use it. And I've done that in private practice many, many times over many years and noticed excellent results. So yes.
One of the things that I appreciate about what Dr. Weil is doing, and I know you follow in his tradition, is understanding that the person is more than a body.
Yes, absolutely.
And how does that play into the way in which you would interact with a patient?
I think what you're talking about is what some people might call the placebo effect. That the idea that what we think about our lives and our course of treatment actually does have an effect on how any particular treatment works. Whether it's surgery and you go into it optimistically and you know you're going to have an easy surgery, you're going to recover well, quickly, and then you do. Versus being fearful and having bad expectations and having trouble getting back on your feet. And the same thing, I think, can be said about using any kind of therapy, that we have to acknowledge what a person thinks and feels about the therapies and work with what is most appealing to them.
In terms of your waiting room, and obviously it's connected with an art gallery,
Yes.
so you're obviously providing an ambiance, a different kind of a welcome.
Very different, yes. Because I spend a lot of time in my office and I like it to be pleasant for me too. And so we serve tea, have nice music playing, there's art everywhere, and it's a pleasant place to be. I do have one room with a more traditional Western examining table because sometimes I need that kind of environment, but otherwise the rooms are quite different than any physician's office you've been in. Go ahead.
Yeah, no, I was just imagining what other kind of things that you could point to that is the additive that integrative medicine offers to the traditional treatments that we might see and be used to around here.
I think a major quality that most integrative physicians have or offer is time spent with the patient, and that is extremely valuable because if people are given a chance to tell their story, and you can go over all the information and details, and you can dialogue with them. That can help you make much wiser choices and offer better options for them. It's very healing. The therapeutic encounter itself is very healing.
Yeah, I can remember in my own past year's odyssey, which was included surgery. I went to a specialist and spent an hour with this really prominent specialist, and besides the wonderful information that passed between us, him to me and me to him both, but it was just such a different confidence level, and
Yes.
such a different trust that
Yes.
had begun to take shape and begin to form.
You don't have to do integrative medicine to have that kind of time and relationship in your medical practice, but so often in a more traditional Western practice, the time element is very strong, and doctors aren't given time to spend with their patients. And my experience is they're just as frustrated as the patient. I know I was.
Now you do work with the VA and for the VA as well, in a more traditional kind of practice, I guess.
Quite traditional, and actually very high tech. Everything we sit at a computer and everything is computerized. So that's had its own learning curve for me to get back into my typing skills.
Yeah, really.
Yeah, it's very impressive, the access to the information and database, very impressive.
Great. So what's you're doing most of your private practice on the weekends or in the evenings? What is that?
Right now, yes, on weekends and evenings, and it takes time for a practice to grow. I'm not really sure how far I'll go with it, how busy I'll be, will I want to do that full time. I really don't know what the community of Paducah, how that will develop. So I'll just have to wait and see.
Mm-hmm. You've obviously already gotten the gallery up and going. I
yeah.
know I tried to come down and see the pictures from Vietnam
Yes.
that
Oh, yes.
you had done, had hosted there.
And those are still up. Darlene Mazzone's son and friend have these beautiful photographs. They've been traveling around the Orient and taking photographs of orphans in orphanages, and they do sell or offer the prints for a contribution, and the money goes to the orphans. And that is still up in the gallery and should be for, I think, at least through the end of April.
And then you have some of your own collection up.
Yes. I have, right now we have an exhibit of what are called molas, and M-O-L-A. These are applique fiber art pieces from the Kuna Indians off the coast of Panama. And the women there have been making these items for, 100, 150 years. And it's basically a form of applique. So as a quilter, of course, I love these.
Sure.
And they do all sorts of topics, fish, plants, people, all sorts of things. They also do quite a few biblical scenes, and they're rather collectible. You don't see that many of them. So right now I have almost 40 of them on display that show scenes from Genesis to Noah, Abraham, Moses, and then quite a few on the New Testament. And we had this postcard sent out, and it says quite clearly on it Jesus, and it has the animals. So it's a lovely display.
And the gallery's open all the time, or does it have limited hours, or what?
Right now, the gallery and office are open on Saturdays only from noon to 5. But also by appointment. I have had people call me and ask me if I can meet them after work, and so we will do that for them. During Quilt Week, April 21st to 26th, we will be open every day from noon till 7 p.m. And additional hours, again, if the need is there. We're going to be functioning sort of as an urgent care services for the quilters. If they have sore throats or bronchitis or something, we're only 4 blocks from the museum, so it should be much easier.
That's a wonderful offering and kind of perfect.
Yeah, it's perfect. Yes.
Marvelous.
Have you been here for the quilt show?
No.
This is
my
your first shot. Oh yeah, great. It's a great. There's a lot of excitement about that across the community.
One of the things to go back to Andrew Weil a little bit. I guess I kind of have a crush on him because he's so accessible. He's so reasonable. I think there's so many folks who really I think prey, either intentionally or unintentionally on folks that are really searching for health and wellness, and so there's plenty of folks who maybe aren't as trustworthy as Andrew Weil. But one of the things that I remember in his writings is the power of breath.
Yes.
And I think there's a quote somewhere that said, if all we did was breathe with intention for 10 seconds a day, that our health would be greatly improved.
Yes.
And that caught my attention for a variety of reasons, because there are a number of spiritual practices that focus on breath and breathing, and in the Judeo-Christian tradition, breath is an important word. Pneuma in the Greek and ruach in the Hebrew, of spirit and breath being connected. To what extent do you focus on matters of breath and matters of spirit with folks that you're working with?
Well, the breath work is central to work I do with people I see. Diet, nutrition, I hate to call it diet, that sounds like it's restrictive, but basically, the food, how we replenish our body with nutrients, the food we eat, that's central. Physical activity, walking is wonderful exercise. And then spirituality or meditation or that finding that inner center. And for some people, well, for all people, breath work is useful. For some people, that's the only thing they're really comfortable with, and that's fine. So we work with the breath. Dr. Weil, one of his favorite techniques is what he calls the 4-7-8 breath, where you breathe in to a count of 4, you hold it to a count of 7, and then you breathe out through your mouth to a count of 8. And he's used it for many, many years. And if a person does 4 of those breaths, he has you start 4 of those breaths in the morning and then 4 in the evening. You start really very slow, very little. And it does have profound effects on your health. From a Western point of view, we would explain that as being linked to the autonomic nervous system, that when you breathe focused and slowly like that, you invigorate, you kind of turn on the parasympathetic nervous system, and that's the system rest and relax. And you downplay the sympathetic nervous system. That's the one that we live in. You know, we're always in a hurry, got to do this. We're always like this. That's bad for our health. So by breathing, consciously focused breathing, you can downplay the sympathetic nervous system and bring your parasympathetic nervous system to the front.
That, the rhythm of that, the 4-7-8, makes me think I was a kind of a social smoker for a number of years, and I realized that what I liked about smoking wasn't the nicotine, it was the breath. And the way that I smoked matches that. Kind of a quick inhale, hold it for a little while, and then exhale slowly. And once I realized that, I realized that what I wanted was just an opportunity to kind of breathe a little bit,
Rhythmically.
and then and so I know cigarettes and nicotine, that was not the deal for me. That it really was about breath. And once I learned that really what I wanted was air, and to have an opportunity to kind of be present and relax, and that was very easy. So there's something, I don't know, at least for me, something there.
And that's something that anyone can do, no matter what their spiritual foundations, and I see no conflict there for them.
Right.
Larry Dawsey, I don't know if you've heard of him, he's a physician, he's in New Mexico now, an internist, and a very important man in the field of alternative and integrative medicine. He has written many books about the power of prayer and healing. He's really the expert, I think, in this country on that area. And they've done studies. Apparently there's a fairly solid database that prayers for yourself or by others that are close to you can be quite powerful in healing. And of course, people in ministry, you, I'm sure, have heard many stories of miraculous cures.
And been around those as well.
Yes.
Very much. Fascinating. In the course of a lot of things I do, one of the things I do is move in and out of schools a lot and do a lot of interactions. But one of the things I always do with them is to say how important it is to be very still and to breathe very deeply and to focus very intently. And it's been an interesting encounter. I never had kids that wouldn't, students at all sorts of ages, from high school down to preschool, who didn't really take to it and were really intrigued and open to it in all sorts of ways.
Yeah, excellent.
Well, you'd think, since we're living, breathing beings, that we would be connected more, but sadly we're not.
There was a very large study done, I think about 2 years ago, and it was studying a more impersonal type of prayer. And it was having people pray for this person having surgery, and this person knew about it or didn't know about it, but certainly didn't know these people. And that in that setting, prayer was not shown to have any significant effect. And there was kind of jokes made that was good for medicine. Otherwise, doctors would have to start offering prayer services.
Yeah, really. There you go.
And that would be silly.
A little different.
A little different,
training,
yes,
wouldn't it? Yeah.
yes, yeah.
We're getting close to the end of our time, and I'm wondering if we've left anything out. What else do we all need to know about integrative medicine that'll help us take advantage of your good skills? And
I'd love to see anyone who wants to come see me and work with them. I'm available and open to that. But for those who can't, for whatever reasons, live far away, I think I would recommend probably Dr. Weil's book called 8 Weeks to Optimum Health, because that book, one little volume, has an 8-week program to change your life from wherever it is right now, if you're not feeling very good, in over 8 weeks to develop some new habits and be on the path to better health and wellness. And he has breath work and foods to try and lots of practical activities.
and a rhythm of life,
Yes.
habits and patterns that get established. And you know, us religious people, particularly Methodists, who have always had methods to our madness,
okay.
to get you know, understand the power of that, and the vitality of that.
For folks that wanted to be in touch with you, either related to your medical practice or the art gallery, how would they be in touch?
I hope we're in the information, but the phone number, if we're not, for the integrative medicine practice, it's area 270-415-1752.
Great. And again, you're open on Saturdays. That's the best. That's the
Yes.
time to plan to see you if they need to see you. And you do insurance and all that sort of thing. I mean, you take insurance.
Insurance will probably take us because I am an MD, but because I'm there so little, I'm not able to be on any insurance plans right now. You have to be open Monday through Friday to be a preferred provider. And we have a website, www.integrativemedicineofkentucky.com. And so there's lots of information on the website as well.
And if people don't remember that, they can just Google Dr. Christi
They
Bonds.
can, yes.
Paducah,
Yes.
Kentucky, and you'll pop right up.
That's it, yes.
Well, Dr. Bonds, it's just been so wonderful to have you. Thank you, and we'll look forward to all the gifts that you're going to give our area. Gregory, good to see you
Good to be
today.
right here.
Thank you for joining us here at Reflections, where with Paducah Cooperative Ministry and all of you, we do God's work with human hands. Shalom.
Shalom.